All right. So let's everyone have notes out. Make sure you have your notes out, please. Some of you still don't have it out yet. Hey Johnny, were you here on Thursday? No. Cool. You're gonna love me for this. One thing I can do is watch the video. But it goes as a test, so that's good. Deal? All right. So let's talk about the hypothesis. We have the null and the alternative hypothesis. All right. So let me explain what would take place in the world of statistics prior to a hypothesis. You, as a curious person, you make some observations. So let's make a observation that I bet you all have made. The intersection over here on Union and Yosemite seems to average 1 accident per week. You haven't seen one there? Wow, you must drive the wrong way.
I give you the intersection right here.
Or any of them up and down Union. The next one down at where the tech center is.
Oh, that one I've seen.
Okay, so all right, let's make this. Let's make the observation that the road Union is pretty dangerous because as you drive up and down Union, which is this street right here, and it turns into it has 3 different names in a mile. Isn't it Union, Temple, and something else at some point? Somewhere along that stretch of road, you probably feel like you see 1 accident a week. Agree? So you are somebody who has time on their hands. I know you don't, but let's just pretend you are. So you decide you want to contact the city and say, hey, there's something wrong with this particular stretch of road because there's always seems to be an accident. Okay, I think there's 1 accident every week while school is in session along this road. And the city, would be Greenwood Village or Denver because it goes through both cities. So you kind of create a little stir. And so the person you talk to says, well, let's take a look. Well, then the city is going to come out and they are going to have some sort of observation situation that they put there to collect data, and the data could support what you found. So then, after all that's done, where data collection has taken place, where they've kind of looked at things, they create something called the null hypothesis, and then they create the alternative hypothesis. And this is what you start testing as far as the tails go on your normal distribution. So basically, normal distribution, I know you've only seen this once, but let's say we have this. This is a less than some number. Okay, if we add over here, so a few things just to know. We have a 1-tail situation, or we have something called a 2-tail situation. Okay, and the tails are the right and the left side of the normal curve. So you're trying to figure out, do we have evidence that falls within those tails or not? Now, we're going to really start getting into the legal parts of statistics. I mean, I kid you not, statistics really is the math that you do that sounds like law. Okay, so So it says the previous chapter sets up the mathematics behind finding statistical evidence. The process of evaluating the strength of the statistical evidence is called the hypothesis testing. And then the following was taken from a statistics website. A hypothesis test is a statistical test that is used to determine whether there is enough evidence in the sample of data and to infer a certain condition is true for the entire population. A hypothesis test examines two opposing hypotheses about the population, null hypothesis, and the alternative hypothesis. So the null could also be called the alternative. Okay, so keeping that in mind. So you have a null hypothesis is based on the concept of no. Okay, so a null hypothesis starts with the letter N, is like the no, it won't happen. Okay, that there is no effect, no change, no difference to observe, or perhaps that the current status quo applies to our given situation. A null hypothesis is a type of hypothesis used in statistics that proposes that no statistical significance exists in the rest of the given observations. The alternate hypothesis is the idea of yes. So the alternative, if I spelled that wrong, I did, is yes, evidence. Okay? Evidence doesn't mean it's guaranteed to happen. Agree? So evidence is, did we look at our data well enough to determine if we have evidence based on it or not? Okay? Another way of looking at the hypothesis is null hypothesis. Null hypothesis denoted by H naught or H sub 0. Okay, so the null usually goes with this. This is H. This little thing means not or sub 0. Okay, and the alternative hypothesis is H sub A. Okay, sometimes H sub A could be called H sub 1. Okay, so it basically means the same thing. So just trying to get the schematics. The alternative hypothesis is denoted by H1 or HA. It is the hypothesis that the sample observations are influenced by some non-random cause. So there's our big word, random's coming in. Okay, so if we take a look at an example, it says we wish to do a study to see if a new medication for lowering cholesterol works. So the null hypothesis, null goes with the no, correct? No, the null goes with no. So our H sub 0, or H naught, says the new medication has no effect on cholesterol levels. Okay, so you have this thing of pills, and you're like, this is the good RX, good prescription. Okay, it's going to lower your cholesterol. Now, friends, do you think there's medication that you take that might or might not affect your body in the way that you think it should? I mean, how many times have you taken aspirin for a headache and you're like, aspirin stinks. I still have a headache. Agree? You guys want to know why you think aspirin stinks? Aspirin is absorbed by your kidneys and bladder. That's a little bit further down the pipeline. Okay? Tylenol seems to work, but it actually has a relatively slow metabolism rate. And Tylenol is absorbed by your liver. So theoretically, Tylenol should work relatively quickly because your liver is right after your stomach. So, but it has a slow metabolism to it. So it takes a while for that Tylenol to get into your bloodstream. Now, have you all realized like ibuprofen is amazing? Yeah. So ibuprofen is also absorbed by your liver, but ibuprofen has an extra key ingredient that the others don't. Okay, aspirin and Tylenol are pain relievers. Ibuprofen is a pain reliever, and it's also an anti-inflammatory. What gives you pain? Something that's inflamed. So you take ibuprofen, which actually has two drugs as part of it. One is an anti-inflammatory situation, which lowers down swelling, which then the pain reliever in ibuprofen seems to work best. So what's really best for our bodies to take? Well, anything in moderation is fine. You guys want to know what the scary thing about Tylenol is? Tylenol's lethal dose is less than a bottle of Tylenol. Think about that for a second. A lethal dose of Tylenol is less than the less than this little small bottle of Tylenol you buy from the store. Ibuprofen is notorious, even though it's an anti-inflammatory, it's notorious for creating kidney stones. But then the side effect of aspirin changes your pH level in your stomach and can actually give you ulcers. So you're like, dude, Stirrup, you're telling us about these pain relievers that don't really work. Well, again, if you take the recommended dosage, go for it. Okay? If any of you have had, wisdom teeth pulled out or whatever, they might give you the big dose of ibuprofen. Okay? They give you a tablet that's about the size of a small meal. Okay? Yes, they're monitoring it. They realize you're not going to be on it forever. So the ill effects that your body might have from ibuprofen, your body will actually metabolize and heal. So it's just the person who decides to take the 800 milligrams nonstop for the rest of their life, there'll go and be some problems there. All right, example 2. We wish to do a study to see if yoga reduces stress levels. Okay, some of us might do yoga. Agree? And those that do yoga, they probably come out of yoga saying, I feel a lot better than I did. Okay, so it might create some effect where yoga reduces our stress levels. So our null hypothesis, yoga has no effect on stress levels. And the alternative hypothesis, yoga reduces stress levels. This particular data collection might be something where you do a data collection on the Likert scale. What was the Likert scale? Talked about that last semester. You've all seen it, I know. Yeah, it doesn't have any numerical values. It usually has a smiley face to a frowny face and then different iterations in between. Usually has 5, things. You usually see it in a doctor's office, because you can get a kid to say, hey, your tummy hurts. Where are you on the scale? And they're like, and they point to it and you're like, okay, wimp. Suck it up, kid. You'll be fine. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. The alternative, yoga reduces stress levels. Okay. So do you see how the null hypothesis has the word no in it? Example 3, is there a gender difference in the ability to learn foreign language? So the null hypothesis, H naught or H sub 0, there is no gender differences in the ability to learn a foreign language. The alternative, there is a gender difference in the ability to learn a foreign language. And I remember hearing the terminology when I was your age in school, maybe even younger. Guys tend to do better at math and science. Girls tend to do better at blah, blah, blah. And you're like, okay. I want to tell you, I think that's all hocus pocus. Just some sort of leading us to think there was some magical thing that guys should do this and girls should do that. I think everyone should have the same opportunity to do what they want. In me humble opinion. Example 4. Is the unemployment rate lowering in recent years? So the null hypothesis, H naught, there has been no significant change to unemployment rates in recent years. The alternative, HA, the unemployment rate has been lowering in recent years. Okay? Boy, they've dealt with this as far as political parties go. Look at the unemployment. Oh, look at this, look at this, look at this. Well, you can sit there and point to the shiny object. Doesn't mean it's statistically sound, but they still do it because the general public is stupid.
What about the sergeant public?
Sergeant public. Sergeant might be better. I don't know. All right, example 5. The average IQ is 100, but people who work crossword puzzles regularly have higher IQ. Okay, and this is a big thing as you get older, as you're probably your parents' age. You might see your parents that are working Sudokus and crossword puzzles and all these things because, like, oh, it's good for your brain. It's like, okay, where's the data on this? Well, it's good for your brain. I read an article that said, okay, is doing a puzzle good? Is it good to think? Sure. Does it really have, does it offset, different brain situations later in life? I don't know. Maybe. Says our null hypothesis, our H naught, our no, the average IQ of crossword puzzle solvers is 100. Okay? The alternative, the average IQ crossword puzzle solvers is greater than 100. So this one doesn't really have the word no in it. It just has the direct number. Example 6, the unemployment rate is below 4%. So the null hypothesis, H naught, the unemployment rate is not below 4%. Our alternative, the unemployment rate is below 4%. So what we're going to find as this chapter continues is we actually test the alternative and we don't test the null. Okay, so you find evidence for or against the alternative, which could mean that the null hypothesis is true, or there's evidence to support the null hypothesis. But again, we aren't 100% sure in the world of statistics. We don't want to claim ownership of statistics. So that's how we basically go with that. So your opportunity is going to be on 6-1, which is page 91. So give it a shot. Now, some of you, if you are struggling along with the last chapter a little bit, maybe apply yourself a little bit on this stuff, and I probably would use enough math to catch you up. But this stuff isn't too hard, but it becomes kind of weird. So look at 6-1. Some people ask, hey, we're doing 5.9 and 5.10 or 5.10 and 5.11. Nah, we're skipping them. We just went with that, okay? And that's all I got for you.